I wasn't supposed to hear it. That's the part that gets me. It wasn't meant for my ears, just one of those casual throwaway comments people make when they think the person it's about is safely out of range. A whisper between friends. A joke over clinking glasses. But I heard it, clear as a bell, through the thin walls of our bedroom while I was in the hallway, trying to find the stupid Bluetooth speaker she loved. She's just having fun, someone giggled. It was Liv, her friend from college. And then came the sentence, the one that split something deep inside me. He's just temporary. Just temporary. That's how she described me. For years, a shared mortgage, 2 cats, and one long fight over whether or not to have kids, and I was just a placeholder in the story she told her friends. Some disposable chapter she could flip past when the real story began. I didn't walk into the room. I just stood there, blinking at the baseboard, willing myself not to go in and demand an explanation. That part of me, the reactionary, explosive part, was dead. I'd buried it the night she came home at 3 a.m., claiming the girls had spontaneously driven to Santa Barbara and her phone must have died. I'd believed her, or maybe I just didn't want to deal with what not believing her would mean. But that sentence echoed in my skull all night. He's just temporary. I barely touched my food the next day. I kept imagining the group text I wasn't in, the conversations I'd never read. I smiled through brunch with her parents, paid for dinner reservations, even helped her zip up the silver dress she chose for our double date with Liv and her new boyfriend. But something in me had started to calcify, and that's when I made the decision. If I was just temporary, then I'd make my exit memorable. I'll tell you something I've learned. Silence gives you options. It gives you control. While she laughed and toasted and gushed about how blessed she felt to be surrounded by friends and love, I started crafting a timeline. Not just any timeline. The timeline. It started with the weekend trip she took with Liv and Chelsea last May. That was the first red flag. She left her iPad at home, and her iMessages pinged on it all weekend. Forgot she'd synced them months ago. I didn't read them all. I couldn't. Just enough to know she wasn't where she said she was. Enough to see a name, Jordan, and some emojis that didn't belong in a friendship. She'd cried when I confronted her. Swore nothing happened. Just flirting. Said she felt invisible, and that it was nice to be wanted again. And God help me, I understood that. I wasn't perfect either. I'd been distant. Work had been killing me, and I hadn't noticed how far we were drifting. So we talked. We set rules. We agreed to try. She promised no more secrets. That was 16 months ago. But I didn't delete those texts. I archived them. And every time something fell off after that, every weird excuse, every new coworker friend, I started tracking things. Not obsessively, just carefully. Dates, locations, receipts. I wasn't preparing for war. I was preparing for clarity. By the time her birthday rolled around, I knew everything. Jordan wasn't a one-time mistake. He was a consistent shadow in our relationship. Sometimes I think I hated that more than the infidelity, the routine of it. The way she managed me and him like we were 2 side projects on the same calendar. But the real punch to the gut? She never deleted the group chat. I found it one day when she left her laptop open. Liv, Chelsea, her coworker Marta, all of them chiming in about her poor husband, like I was some dumb golden retriever she hadn't found the heart to put down yet. She says she's waiting for the right moment. Chelsea wrote once. I give it another 6 months, Liv replied. She'll marry up eventually. I wasn't angry when I read it. Not even heartbroken. Just hollow. The kind of hollow that lets light in. That's when I started planning the toast. She loved hosting. Her birthday party was always the event of the fall. A big catered dinner, long table in our backyard, strung lights, linen napkins, the whole Instagram vibe. This year was no different. She wore white. Always white, like some pre-wedding fantasy, and made me wear navy because it looked good in photos. I played along. I poured wine, laughed at Liv's jokes, even lit the candles when she asked me to. Then came the moment. Everyone clinked glasses, buzzing with rose and compliments. She stood at the head of the table, glowing, and said, "Thank you all for being here. I feel so loved. So lucky." They clapped. I smiled. Then I stood up. "Actually," I said, holding my glass aloft, "I'd like to make a toast too." There was a pause, just a flicker of surprise, but they all turned to me. My wife smiled, unsure, the way someone smiles at a dog that might bite. "To new beginnings," I said, locking eyes with her. "To clarity." and to finally seeing people for who they really are. Some chuckles, nervous ones. I pulled a small envelope from my jacket, laid it gently on the table in front of her. She didn't touch it. This, I said, tapping it, is a timeline of the last 18 months. Dates, messages, photos. A full picture of your new relationship. I glanced around the table. Since apparently, I was just temporary. The silence hit like a slow detonation. No one laughed after that. Liv dropped her fork. Chelsea froze mid-sip. Marta looked like she wanted to disappear into the patio bricks. My wife. She just stared at the envelope like it was a loaded gun. And I wasn't done yet. The envelope sat untouched. She didn't even reach for it. Didn't say a word. Just stared like it might catch fire if she moved too fast. I'd half expected a performance. Tears, outrage, maybe even denial. But there was nothing. Just stillness. The same kind of quiet you hear right before a tornado drops. Open it, I said softly. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. Because the damage wasn't in what I said. It was in what I knew. And she knew it, too. That envelope wasn't just paper and ink. It was proof. It was the end of her version of the story. She finally touched it. Slid a perfectly manicured nail under the seal like she was disarming a bomb. Everyone at the table was frozen. No one moved. The laughter from a few minutes ago felt like it belonged to a different lifetime. She pulled out the pages. I kept it simple, a list of dates, locations, and screenshots. A printed copy of the group chat where she called me her safety net. The hotel confirmation under her name and Jordan's from the weekend. She said she was at a yoga retreat. A time-stamped photo of them outside a concert. My buddy Alan had taken it, not knowing who they were. He'd just liked the shot and posted it on his photography blog. And there they were, arms wrapped, lit by stage lights, kissing like no one in the world existed but them. She flipped through page after page. No one said a word. I turned to Liv. You knew, didn't you? Her mouth opened, then closed again. Chelsea glanced down, pretending to adjust her napkin. I'm not mad, I said. Honestly, I'm not even surprised anymore. But what I don't understand is this. If I was just a placeholder, why stay so long? Why let me carry everything while you play pretend? My wife? No, Laura, let's just call her that now, finally looked up. Her voice was quiet, almost a whisper. I didn't plan for it to happen like this. Neither did I said. But here we are. Someone finally moved. Marta. She stood up, mumbled something about needing air, and walked inside. Then Chelsea. Then Liv. One by one, like dominoes tipping over. And Laura? She just sat there. I was going to tell you, she said, still holding the papers. When? After the next dinner? Or after I refinanced the house in both our names again? She winced. That landed. I looked around at the string lights overhead, the empty plates, the wine glasses still half full. This was her perfect night, her curated life. And now it lay cracked open at her feet. You told them I was temporary, I said. So I figured you wouldn't mind me treating this like a send-off. She flinched, barely. But I want to leave something behind, I added, pulling out a small flash drive from my pocket and placing it beside the envelope. That has copies of everything. You can keep it. You'll need it when Jordan denies it all, or when his wife finds out. Her head snapped up. Oh yeah, I nodded. She'll know soon. I sent her a copy too. Now she was breathing heavier, not crying, just realizing the edges of her world were starting to fray faster than she could patch them. I don't want anything from you, Laura, I said. Not money, not apologies. You can keep the house, the car, the cats. I already signed my half over to you this morning. You'll find the paperwork in the study drawer. She blinked. What? She whispered. Why? Because I don't want to carry any part of this anymore. That's what it came down to. I wasn't trying to hurt her. I just didn't want her weight on my shoulders another day. Not her lies. Not her silence. Not her shame pretending to be charm. I loved you, I said simply. Even when I shouldn't have. Even when you made me feel small just so you could feel bigger. But I don't hate you. I'm just done. I turned to leave, but her voice stopped me. Wait, she said. Please. Just tell me what happens now. I turned back slowly. She looked small in that white dress, under those party lights that no longer felt like celebration. What happens now? I echoed. Now I go home and sleep like I haven't in years. And I did. I walked out of our backyard, past the hedge I trimmed every spring, down the driveway we fought about repaving, and into a car I'd parked a few blocks over just in case. I didn't look back. That night, I didn't cry. I didn't drink. I didn't even replay the conversation. I just lay on my back in the guest room of my friend's house, staring at the ceiling fan, breathing deep. For the first time in what felt like forever, there was no waiting for the other shoe to drop. No holding my breath. No pretending. Just silence. And in that silence, I started to feel something I hadn't in a long time. Not joy. Not revenge. Just relief. The emails started 2 days later. At first, they were short. Just her name in my inbox. Subject lines that tried to sound casual. Can we talk? Please read this, I'm sorry. I didn't open them. Not because I wanted to punish her, but because I knew she didn't have the words yet. Not the real ones. And I was tired of decoding things she wouldn't say out loud. Then came the voicemail. Her voice cracked as she tried to explain, but there was nothing in her tone I hadn't heard before. Guilt, not grief. Panic, not love. You can hear the difference when you've been lied to long enough. It's like a language only people who've been betrayed can understand. I didn't mean for it to go so far, she said. I didn't think you'd ever do something like that. Do something like that. That was the part that stung. Not the cheating. Not the lies. But that she still saw me as predictable. Safe. A footnote in her drama instead of the man who'd finally closed the book. The story broke a week later. Jordan's wife, the one I'd mailed the evidence to, was louder than I ever had to be. She posted everything, screenshots, the hotel receipts, even a photo of the timeline I'd printed for Laura's birthday. Turns out when you humiliate someone quietly, they scream for you. Jordan's company put him on leave. The mutual friends scattered. Some reached out to me, sheepishly asking if there was more to the story. I didn't respond. Let them wonder. Laura never denied it. How could she? The digital trail was undeniable. What surprised me wasn't the fallout. It was the silence afterward. No angry confrontation. No crying doorstep apology. Just stillness. The kind that follows an explosion. The kind where the dust hasn't even settled yet. I moved out of state 3 weeks after the party. Packed what little I wanted, some books, a few clothes, an old framed photo of my dad, and left the rest behind. The house was too full of ghosts anyway. I didn't go far. Just far enough that I could start over without being recognized. Took a job consulting for a small logistics firm that didn't care about my past, only my skills. I got a tiny apartment near a lake and started walking in the mornings just to hear something besides my own thoughts. One morning, maybe a month after I'd settled in, I got a letter. Handwritten. No return address. But I knew the handwriting. Laura. It was long. 5 pages. Neat script, like she took her time. She said she'd been rewriting everything in her head, trying to trace the line where we began to unravel. She didn't blame me, not exactly, but she didn't quite take responsibility either. She said she missed the version of herself she was when we first met. That being with me had made her feel safe, and somehow that became boring. I didn't know how to sit still in peace, she wrote. I thought love had to be louder, more dramatic. But you were the quiet before the storm, and I mistook that for emptiness. She asked if there was any chance of forgiveness. I didn't write back, not because I hated her, but because I'd already forgiven her in the way you forgive a wildfire. It happened, it burned, and now I plant something new in the ashes. A few months later, I heard from Liv. Strangely enough, she reached out not to apologize, but to say she admired how I'd handled it. You were surgical, she wrote. Like you'd been preparing for that moment your whole life. She said she left their friend group. That Laura wasn't talking much these days. Apparently, she lost a few brand partnerships, and her Instagram, once the altar of her curated life, had gone dark. I didn't feel victorious, just distant, like watching a storm roll away in the rearview mirror. And that's when I realized something. I wasn't the temporary one. I was the one who lasted, the one who learned, the one who walked out with nothing but his name intact, and that was more than enough. Sometimes I think back to that night under the patio lights, the way their faces changed when the truth hit the table, the way silence swallowed the air. People ask me now why I did it that way, publicly, dramatically, without rage, but with precision. And I tell them this, because when someone writes you off as temporary, you don't argue. You don't beg. You become unforgettable. You raise a glass. You make the toast. You show them the timeline. And then you walk away while the laughter dies behind you.